The moment you react, you surrender position. Not loudly, not visibly, but structurally. The second you feel the urge to defend yourself, to clarify your intentions, to correct someone's misinterpretation, or to emotionally respond to disrespect, the power dynamic quietly shifts. Because reaction is not just emotion. Reaction is information. And information in competitive environments is leverage. Most people are raised to believe that explaining yourself shows maturity, that reacting to injustice proves integrity, that defending your name preserves respect. That emotional expression demonstrates authenticity, and in safe, balanced environments, this belief can function without consequence. But power structures are rarely safe, and they are rarely balanced. They are built on hierarchy, positioning, perception, and control of narrative. In those systems, the one who reacts most becomes the one who is managed. Machiavelli observed this long before social media, before corporate politics, before modern status games. He watched men in royal courts lose everything, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they lacked control. They reacted to insult. They explained their loyalty too eagerly. They defended themselves against whispers. They sought fairness in environments driven by advantage. And each reaction revealed their pressure points. Pressure points invite pressure. This is the first dark lesson. When you react, you teach others how to move you. If someone insults you and you flare up, they now know anger controls you. If someone questions your competence and you rush to prove yourself, they now know insecurity drives you. If someone ignores you and you chase clarity, they now know your fear of rejection controls your behavior. Every emotional response leaves fingerprints, and once someone knows where your fingerprints are, they can press precisely there. Never react. Not because you are weak, not because you are suppressing emotion, but because reaction transfers initiative. Initiative is power. When you react, you respond to someone else's frame. When you remain calm, silent, and measured, you force them to respond to yours. The one who controls pacing controls outcome. Most people cannot tolerate silence. They cannot tolerate uncertainty. They cannot tolerate tension. So they fill it with explanation, defense, justification, apology. And in doing so, they surrender leverage. Never explain. Explanation feels virtuous. It feels transparent. It feels mature. But explanation, when demanded by those who do not deserve access, is submission disguised as clarity. When someone challenges you publicly, and you feel compelled to give a full narrative of your intentions, you lower your position. Because the person demanding explanation becomes the evaluator, and you become the applicant. Power does not apply for approval. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must avoid being contemptible. One of the fastest ways to become contemptible is to appear defensive. Defensive energy signals vulnerability. Vulnerability without strategic timing signals weakness. And weakness invites testing. Testing escalates when resistance is low. If someone misinterprets you intentionally and you rush to correct them, you validate their importance. If someone spreads a rumor and you obsessively clarify, you amplify it. If someone provokes you and you respond emotionally, you reward the provocation. Reaction feeds manipulation. Never explain. Just ignore. Ignore does not mean passive. It means selective engagement. It means you do not grant everyone access to your internal reasoning. It means you do not dignify every accusation with response. It means you do not compete for validation. Silence, when controlled, creates psychological pressure. The person seeking reaction begins to feel exposed. Their attempt to destabilize you reveals more about them than your silence reveals about you. Most people are addicted to being understood. They crave agreement. They crave fairness. They crave acknowledgement. But power is not built on craving. It is built on control. Control of speech. Control of emotion. Control of visibility. When you never react, people hesitate before provoking you. When you never explain unnecessarily, people measure their tone more carefully. When you ignore manipulation attempts, manipulators lose their grip, because manipulation requires engagement. Without engagement, it collapses. Here is the uncomfortable truth. People test you unconsciously. They question you lightly to see how stable you are. They withdraw attention to see if you chase. They exaggerate misunderstandings to see if you defend. They challenge boundaries to see if they bend. Each small test is data collection, and your reaction becomes their strategy. Machiavelli survived volatile political climates because he did not move impulsively. He absorbed tension. He calculated timing. He understood that outrage is predictable. Predictability is exploitable. And exploitation is inevitable when someone sees your triggers clearly. The first dark psychology trick: master emotional non-reactivity. This is not emotional numbness. It is emotional discipline. When someone disrespects you lightly, do not flinch. When someone praises you excessively, do not inflate. When someone withdraws affection, do not chase. The person who remains centered forces others to recalibrate. Recalibration is power, because when someone realizes their usual tactic does not work on you, they feel uncertain. Uncertainty shifts hierarchy. Most people leak power through micro-reactions. A raised eyebrow, a defensive tone, a rapid explanation, an unnecessary apology. These micro-signals communicate internal instability, and internal instability becomes external vulnerability. The second dark psychology trick: refuse to enter every frame. When someone frames you as defensive, emotional, incompetent, jealous, or insecure, your instinct is to prove them wrong. But in doing so, you accept their frame. You argue inside it. You validate its existence. Instead, ignore the frame entirely. Respond to what serves your position, not what serves their narrative. Frame control is invisible dominance. If someone says, "Why are you so angry?" and you are not angry, your instinct is to say, "I'm not angry." That is already defensive. Instead, shift focus. Continue speaking calmly about your point. Do not argue about emotional labels. The moment you argue about labels, you are negotiating perception. Power does not negotiate perception reactively. It builds perception through consistent behavior over time. The third dark psychology trick: protect your internal world. Not everyone deserves access to your reasoning, your strategy, your emotions, your long-term plans. When you explain yourself excessively, you give others blueprints to counter you. Information is currency. Spend it carefully. If someone questions your decision and you explain every variable, they now understand your constraints. Constraints become leverage. If someone challenges your ambition and you reveal your timeline, they can obstruct it. If someone provokes you and you reveal your insecurity, they can apply pressure precisely there. Never explain beyond necessity. The fourth dark psychology trick: strategic silence. Silence is uncomfortable for those who rely on emotional control. When you remain silent after provocation, the other person begins filling the space. They reveal more than they intended. They escalate prematurely. They expose insecurity. Silence is not weakness, it is controlled tension. Tension, when maintained calmly, elevates your psychological weight. Most people rush to smooth tension because they fear rejection. But smoothing tension prematurely signals dependency. Dependency lowers leverage. The fifth dark psychology trick: controlled indifference. Indifference is not cruelty. It is the absence of desperation. When someone senses that their approval is not required for your stability, they treat you differently. When someone senses that losing them would not collapse your identity, they hesitate to manipulate. Controlled indifference changes dynamics immediately. The sixth dark psychology trick: consistency without predictability. This is subtle. You remain consistent in values, calmness, and boundaries. But you do not become emotionally predictable. Your reactions are measured, not impulsive. Your timing is deliberate, not reactive. People cannot forecast your emotional shifts because you do not allow emotion to drive action visibly. Unpredictability in reaction prevents control. The seventh dark psychology trick: detach from validation. The need to be understood drives explanation. The need to be respected drives defense. The need to be liked drives reaction. Remove the need, and you remove the vulnerability. This is not about isolation. It is about internal security. When you are secure internally, you do not chase clarity from those who distort you. You do not beg for fairness in unfair systems. You do not seek applause for self-worth. Machiavelli understood that stability under pressure determined survival. The court was filled with brilliant men who reacted to insult. They sought justice publicly. They defended their honor aggressively. They were predictable, and predictable men were eliminated quietly. Never react, never explain, just ignore. Because ignoring, when intentional, is not avoidance, it is positioning. Now we go deeper, because intellectual understanding is not transformation. You must apply this internally. Your greatest enemy is impulse. Impulse tells you to respond immediately. Impulse tells you to correct misinformation instantly. Impulse tells you to defend your reputation publicly. Impulse tells you to send the message, make the call, clarify the misunderstanding. But impulse is emotion seeking relief. Relief is short-term. Power is long-term. The moment you act for emotional relief, you sacrifice structural advantage. Consider public criticism. Someone challenges you in front of others. Your heart rate increases. Your ego feels threatened. Your mind races to defend your competence. But if you respond emotionally, you reveal that the criticism affected you deeply. The audience does not remember who was technically correct. They remember who appeared stable. Stability intimidates louder than argument. If instead you respond briefly, calmly, or even choose silence, the aggressor becomes the one exerting visible effort. Effort under pressure exposes insecurity. Insecurity shifts perception. Now consider private manipulation. Someone withdraws affection to provoke pursuit. If you react by chasing, explaining, or over-communicating, you confirm dependency. If you remain composed, focus on your direction, and allow space without panic, you change the dynamic. Space reveals alignment. Those who respect you remain. Those who relied on control escalate and expose themselves. The consequences of staying naive are brutal. You become easy to frame, easy to provoke, easy to manipulate, easy to guilt, easy to control. Your reactions become predictable patterns. Patterns become strategies against you. And once someone masters your pattern, you are no longer interacting, you are being managed. Strategic awareness restores autonomy. When you master non-reaction, you control emotional pacing. When you master silence, you control information flow. When you refuse to explain unnecessarily, you control narrative exposure. When you ignore manipulation, you dismantle leverage. But this requires discipline. Discipline of speech, discipline of ego, discipline of timing, discipline of self-worth. You will feel misunderstood at times. You will feel the urge to clarify. You will feel the temptation to defend. But ask yourself, does this serve my position, or does it serve my emotion? Emotion seeks comfort. Strategy seeks outcome. Machiavelli's realism was not about cruelty. It was about survival within systems governed by perception and leverage. He understood that people are driven by interest, pride, fear, ambition, and advantage. If your reaction satisfies their interest, they repeat the tactic. If your silence frustrates it, they recalibrate. Recalibration is dominance without noise. The person who remains centered while others escalate becomes psychologically heavy. People hesitate around heavy presence. Hesitation shifts hierarchy. Hierarchy exists in every room. Someone commands more influence. Someone sets tone. Someone determines pacing. If you are the one reacting most, you are not setting tone, you are following it. Following tone lowers authority. Ignoring trivial attacks increases it. Never react does not mean tolerate abuse. It means respond strategically, not emotionally. There is a difference. Strategic response is measured, minimal, firm. Emotional reaction is impulsive, excessive, revealing. Never explain does not mean secrecy. It means selective transparency. Those who have earned access receive clarity. Those who challenge without position receive silence. Just ignore does not mean apathy. It means refusing to validate low-level provocations. When you adopt this mindset consistently, something shifts subtly. People test you less. They speak more carefully. They hesitate before disrespect. They become uncertain about your triggers. Uncertainty generates caution. Caution generates respect. Respect stabilizes influence. This is the paradox. The less you fight for respect, the more durable it becomes. Because you are no longer negotiating it emotionally, you are embodying it structurally. If this perspective unsettles you, it means you are confronting how often you have leaked power through reaction. That discomfort is growth. Power is not loud dominance. It is quiet control. Never react impulsively. Never explain unnecessarily. Ignore strategically. And watch how dynamics shift without confrontation. If this sharpened your awareness, stay with this channel. We break down power, psychology, and strategic positioning without fantasy, only realism. Comment below where you've reacted too quickly in the past. And share this with someone intelligent who still loses leverage through impulse. Because in a world addicted to reaction, the one who remains still often controls everything.